morning, CIU podcast, CIU family, Kavala Nation. We are happy to be back here. I'm here with Professor Kempson and myself, Dr. Williams, and we're going to be talking about constitutional law today. Again, we're glad to have you on and listen to us often, following us. We try to keep up. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. And I'm glad to be here. And welcome to all of our listeners this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are in part of the world.
Yeah, we're international institutions, so we got students in different parts of the world. Some in America, like some in the Philippines, it's like 8 hours apart, 13 hours apart. Different time, 18 hours apart. So when it's morning in some location, it is actually evening in some locations. We actually follow the rotation of the sun. So if it is dark, it is day here, and that is it. CIU is always 24/7. And again, thank you for always following our podcast. So today, like we said, we're talking about constitutional law. Now, every country has some sort of law that govern the structure of the government. The UK doesn't really have a written constitution. Some do that, but they have the parliamentary. They have the structure that keep them going. There are some countries that have a written law. They don't follow them though, unfortunately. And that's not a good thing. Then we have others. When it comes to the US, the Constitution is the supreme law. It's very, very rooted in the structural foundation of the country and the way things run. It's the rights, it gives us freedom. Everything we do is governed by the Constitution. But there are things that have been happening. It's nice to always go through them to explain some of these foundations and some of the things that guide us and why we value our Constitution, and what other impacts are being held. So, Chris, let you jump in and see. Let you take the floor and expand on that.
Absolutely. Well, constitutional law is actually one of my favorite subjects to teach. And the Constitution itself is an amazing living document. It is the embodiment of the principle of governance that our country is founded on. And that governance and government is a grand and great experiment designed around the concept and the notion and the premise that we are governed by a peoples and a principle and an ideal. Basically, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few are the one, as we come together with our elected officials to form some type of government and governance for us. Between May and September of 1787, delegates from 12 states convened in Philadelphia, the first capital, to revise the Articles of Confederation. Well, the Articles of Confederation, if you may well know, was the forerunner to the U.S. Constitution.
Right.
And shortly after the American Revolution and our break from Great Britain, we had to have some type of governance to govern ourselves. And this, of course, was met with a lot of consternation because we were founded on the principle of we the people, just as it says in our founding documents. And that being said, not being ruled by a monarch, by a king in this case.
Yeah.
So we had the Articles of Confederation. And then after that, of course, we had our Constitution. And our Constitution took years to actually ratify. And this is, most people don't know. You had two sides. You had the Federalist and, for lack of a better term, an anti-Federalist. Basically, one strong federal government supporting under the Federalist and a weak federal government, which is the anti-Federalist. Virginia and usually the southern states were kind of anti-Federalist because they wanted more states' rights. And again, that goes back to the principle of getting away from a monarch, or the fear was having one controlling person, one controlling government.
But they have the complete.
And
they have the complete concept.
Exactly. And we'll get into that in just a moment. The tricameral. But basically, Alexander Hamilton,
Mhm.
uh, along with James Madison and John Jay, very famous jurists, as they would later to be found. Hamilton wrote in one of his Federalist Papers, in framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this: you must first enable the government to control the governed, and the next place oblige it to control itself. So I mean, that right there says they were trying to assure the people and assuage them that that the anti-federalists said it's okay, it won't be a complete national monarchical government.
Mhm.
So again, this took years to get ratified for the Constitution. The Bill of Rights,
Mhm.
as we know today through constitutional law, was not originally in the Constitution.
Right.
The first draft by James Madison was not in there. And he insisted that he was the delegate from Virginia. He insisted that there be something in there that protect individual rights, the foundation, the cornerstone of our Constitution as we know it today. Um, Again, the Constitution is just a wonderful, living document.
And many people think it just came together, we just sat down and just wrote it, it was just smooth writing agreement, but as you continue to discuss, you say it wasn't the case.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I mean, if you just take the principle, since we are in law, the principle of judicial review, which if anybody that's studies social studies in school know we have the executive, legislative, and the judicial branch. Well, the judicial branch, as originally conceived, was a weak branch. They did not know exactly what to do with them. So the famous landmark case, Marbury versus Madison, you know, um, President James Madison at that point against Marbury, his Secretary of State, for
Yep.
judicial appointments, established the judicial review.
Right.
So
And
the
then
foundational.
it went against him right away. See, go ahead and talk more about that. That's one of the most beautiful part of the Constitution when we come to judicial review. Go
It,
ahead.
it is. It absolutely is. And when you talk about that, I mean, judicial review itself is the process under which the government's executive, legislative, or administrative actions are subject to review by the judiciary. So the judiciary basically either validates or invalidates the laws that are enacted by the legislative branch. So that in itself is huge. And as I said, Marbury versus Madison, the principal case, the landmark case that founded judicial review and is one of the constitutional law's seminal cases. The first case that you basically study. And basically, Madison was the Secretary of State at the time, and James Madison basically appointed magistrates, and the court, the next incoming president, refused to acknowledge those appointments. And so they had to have some mechanism to basically check and balance or force the executive branch to say, look, you must do your job. And it was great. I mean, Marbury, who was the one of the appointees,
Mhm.
and this is where the actual judiciary got involved and said, look, this is what we do. This establishes the judiciary branch, and that we have an ability to check and balance or curtail the executive authority. Because Jefferson basically they were trying to sneak some people in before they left office, and that didn't work. I mean, and that's what the court determined.
And we had a code after they got a case that said you're right, but we cannot implement this part of that. And now we had a review, like you have to go back and actually see, even though this is in the Constitution, but it doesn't grant us the power to do this. So the courts are there. Devil said we can write laws. We're not here to write laws. We're here to review
Right.
what he gave. And if you want to correct anything, you have to take it back to Congress. Now we have a judicial review and we have the proper check and balance system in place. Wow.
Exactly. Exactly.
Beautiful.
And basically, what they did, because the Federal Judiciary Act of 1789 is basically what established the court system as we know it today. Yes, the Constitution does speak to a court, and says one will be basically promulgated and created, but the Judiciary Act actually developed it further and gave it teeth, if you will.
Right.
So basically, and the ruling was Section 13 of that judiciary, the Federal Judiciary Act, basically said it was unconstitutional to the extent that it basically enlarged the original jurisdiction beyond that what was permitted by the Constitution, and said Congress cannot pass laws that are contrary to the Constitution, and it's the role of the judiciary to interpret what the Constitution permits. So again, this is the seminal case in which they founded the first legal precedent.
And then we had the system that came in place that the judiciary review, but the Congress passed a statute, passed a code, and then the judiciary review, the executive branch can execute the law after it's been approved. But we have the judiciary that interpret the law and see how it fits, what the executive branch is doing, and any of the branches is actually in harmony with why that particular law was enacted. So here we got it, so you don't have a banana republic that you got a bunch of wealthy people just deciding for themselves because he's the president, he can just go ahead and do anything he wants to do. We have all of these systems in place, and when that is not there, we have a lot of court cases, right? People, individual group filed a suit against what is an executive order, or of course it does give the president executive order, but whatever the president is doing, we file suit against the president, or even if a law is passed, we file suits to say, no, it's not in harmony with the Constitution, it violates this part of the Constitution. And then it falls right back to the judiciary to interpret that and make a finding. Now, I know one big thing that always happens, sometimes is delay. They say, oh, the judge is delaying, it's taking time, all this kind of thing. But that is why the Constitution afforded judiciary. Take your time, review the matter. There's nothing I say once it comes to you, you have to do it today. Yes, we have speedy trial, that's 6 amendment, stuff about, but it doesn't say you have to do it today, you have to do it tomorrow. But people get emotional and they forget.
Exactly.
We have to be governed by the Constitution in the way it's set in place. Yeah.
Right. And Hamilton, again, going back to Hamilton again, he said the courts were designed to be an intermediate body between the people and the legislature in order, among other things, to keep the latter within the limits assigned to their authority. So to me, the judiciary is the most important branch. It is the ultimate check and balance between the legislative and the executive.
Right. And it's strange, right? Because at some point, some people, like we said, the executive branch, they didn't know what to do with it. But also there was some group that wanted to also say the courts were being irrelevant. They would just be there because we had one Supreme Court that was there. And then, of course, in the Constitution, so you got to have only one court, the Supreme Court. But then we had the judiciary. The Congress had the power to establish sub-courts, trial courts, and all of these different district courts and things. Congress has the power to fund them and create them in different settings. So now we have different courts. And then we get to see that it's not just the Supreme Court. We have all of this, we have state courts, but we also have federal courts that the Constitution allows Congress to create. Which means now the Congress, the court system have a lot of power. And because all the funding file could not foresee all of these things. But the fact that they were able to come together eventually and to put it together to have this life document, breathing document, is still unique to see today when you go through the history. Very good. Very good. Thank you. We will spend this on maybe later on. We just talk about do another one on some of the amendments and see what we can talk about the Bill of Rights and other things. Okay, so again, thank you all for tuning in. This is a very good topic. We keep expanding on this topic and discuss it at different times. We'll revisit it again. So Professor Kempson, thank you so much for the explanation and input. And to our listener, we say thank you so much for listening in. And thank you so much for joining Kavada Nation and our podcast. See you later.
Thank you very much and look forward to class.
Okay.